So this is not surprising at all. I talked about a week ago how the Steelers, inside the Steelers building, it was actually kind of split. Some people wanted to sign Tyler Boyd, others did not. And a lot of it came down to the money that he was asking for, right? So it was kind of like, okay, well, at the correct price tag, like I always say for the Bengals, we will sign anyone we want as long as the price tag is correctly, right? Doesn't matter who you are, you're going to be added to the 90-man roster, and if we give you a no-nothing contract, come on board, you help us out, we're going to be happy. So that was kind of my mentality when it came to Tyler Boyd signing with the Steelers, and based on reports, that's how it seemed to be for the Steelers. It's like half of them was like, hey, listen, this would be a great signing, and the other half's like, you know what, no, we don't want to spend the money, but if he'll take nothing, we'll take him, right? And at that point, I think the Jets would also like him, the Chiefs wanted him, and I think at some point we would want him too at the correct price tag. So according to 93.7 The Fan, Ray here says this: I think that the Steelers view any of these current wide receivers in free agency as number threes. I just don't think they want to pay $8 to $9 million for a guy who's going to be a number three. And if I'm being honest, right, and this is me not trying to be biased, me not trying to give my viewpoint. In fact, I do love Tyler Boyd. But if you're the Steelers, you just got rid of Deontay Johnson, right? You have George Pickens, he's your number one. Tyler Boyd, for us, last year, was a number three. But he was a number three because of the fact we had T. Higgins and we had Jamar Chase. Now, T missed a lot of time last year, and Chase also missed one game. In that absence, right, we saw Yoshi start to develop. We saw Trenton Irwin really step forward and take a spot. But Tyler Boyd was still very clutch last year, and he was still very good. He wasn't like he was in previous years and throughout his career, but, you know, he definitely took a back seat. If you're Pittsburgh, most likely, right, in one of the 7 rounds, you're taking a wide receiver. Calvin Austin is projected / expected to be the wide receiver 2 for this team. That's why they got rid of Deontay Johnson, because they have faith that Calvin Austin can be that wide receiver 2. Mike Tomlin has already been very clear, even though he missed his rookie season because of an injury, he wants him to take a step forward, and he did last year. He took a step forward, and he got a lot better. The problem is, I don't think Calvin Austin is a number 2 yet. I think he's a number 3, and I think the Steelers don't have a number 2. I think Deontay Johnson was a number 2 to a certain degree, but he had so many problems that a number 2 wasn't even worth it for them. You know, he had a tantrum, a tantrum every single 10 seconds. Guy dropped the ball. It was a mess, right? So Tyler Boyd joining their team, and until they draft someone, and even then, I don't think they're going to take a wide receiver in the first round. I think if you're Pittsburgh, you're probably taking an offensive lineman in the first round. And then probably maybe second, third, or fourth, you're taking wide receiver. But still, you know, you're probably not going to get yourself a starting day 1 wide receiver 2. You're not. Unless you take a first round receiver, you're probably going to get yourself a low end wide receiver 2 at highest, but most likely a high-end wide receiver 3. Pittsburgh's really good at drafting receivers, okay? That's what they're good at, okay? So I'm not expecting them to, you know, take a wide receiver 5. They're going to take a wide receiver high-end 3, low-end 2. It's going to take some time to develop, right? You have a new quarterback in town, Russell Wilson. Kenny Pickett's out of there. And then you got Justin Fields. This is not like back in the old days when number 7 was behind center. They're going to take some time to develop. So, again, if Tyler Boyd joined the team, he would be a low-end wide receiver 2. High-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2. And I agree, for $8 to $9 million per year is a lot to ask for a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. This is why, again, I don't think Pittsburgh's going to sign Tyler Boyd. I truly believe they're not going to. Because, first off, if you know anything about Pittsburgh does not give wide receivers second contracts. And you might say, well, how did that apply to this situation right here? Because Pittsburgh literally sticks to their guns 90% of the time. They don't pay wide receivers. They don't like paying wide receivers. And when I say the second contract, it's just that's because they'd rather let a receiver go and draft someone else and get someone else rather than give money to a wide receiver, right? And Tyler Boyd's going to be no exception here in free agency. So I do truly believe they probably do see Tyler Boyd as a wide receiver 3. He's going to be 30 years old. He's up there in age. And he's coming off a season where, again, he wasn't the focal point. He wasn't the greatest player of all time. He was still a pretty good player for us, but he wasn't the greatest player of all time. So I'm not surprised that they're, again, probably not going to sign him. Which, again, then sparks the interest/narrative. Where would he go? And, the Jets are still interested in him, but the Jets are probably going to draft a wide receiver. Again, this is a really good wide receiver draft class. Then you got to think, if it's not the Jets, the Chiefs are probably not going to go for him. I feel like he's not interested in the Chiefs. They're interested in him, but he's not interested in them. And then, again, you just go down this list here, and yeah, it's possible he just goes to like someone like Arizona, or he goes somewhere else where he's just going to get a bag, or something like the Commanders. And I really do feel like if we don't re-sign him, which chances are, I think I would give us around a 20% chance of re-sign him. I think that's probably our odds. But I think really will end up going probably is something like the Commanders. I think he'll probably go to the Commanders. They'll probably pay him a small bag because they have the money, and that will be that. And if not, would I hope he goes outside of us? Probably Tennessee. And I don't like Tennessee. I'm just going to say this right now. I don't like the Titans. But it is Brian Callahan as the head coach there. So I do respect them because, that's our guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going just to, pray for Brian Callahan in Tennessee. But other than that, man, it is what it is, Tyler, man, I feel bad for him now because he's in this, like, really weird limbo spot where it's like he hit free agency right away. Like, some receivers you hit free agency a little bit later and then you have to deal with everyone getting signed. He hit free agency right away. The problem is, again, he's just older. He's older and he wants too much money. And it's going to be hard to find a team that's going to be interested in him, especially this late in the cycle. As I said before, if he is going to get signed, my personal opinion is he will not get signed before the NFL draft. I think that he'll get signed after the NFL draft, and it will be after a team doesn't draft a receiver, or maybe they draft a receiver and they're just kind of iffy about it. Maybe they go with someone who's a project, right? And they're like, well, we got a project wide receiver. Oh, crap, Tyler Boyd's available. We can just go with Tyler Boyd here after the draft, bring him in, and there you go. But again, that $8 to $9 million price tag range is just too much money. I don't think any team, unless you're like the Commanders or one of these teams that are truly, just looking for anything, I don't think there's going to be a team out there who's interested in him at that price tag. I know we won't be. So I'm not going to be surprised. I'll be very surprised if anyone else is. But tell me down below your thoughts and opinions.